My parents are both from Canada, although my father actually moved to Israel in the 1940s. He moved right before the Israeli War of Independence, fought in the war, and he was living in Israel. He moved back to Montreal for a brief period, met my mother, and then they moved back to Israel where I was born. The reason that we left Israel is that my father had lived on a kibbutz, this, agrarian commune for years, but my mother, who he met in Montreal, wouldn't go back to the kibbutz when they moved back to Israel. But I often think that if they had gone back to the kibbutz, which is what my father had wanted to do, they probably never would have left. And I think he looks on that possibility as sort of his great missed opportunity, but I look on that as sort of the moment that I avoided what I think would have been a very different and I imagine less fortuitous future. But then I sort of stumbled onto this literary career. I set out to write a really lighthearted, silly murder mystery, the kind of murder mystery that I always said that you could read with the attention you can spare while breastfeeding. It turned out to be the first in the series called the Mommy Track Mysteries, but I'm ambitious. I do feel like I have that kind of immigrant striver mentality, like no amount of success is really enough. You have to move to the next step. And when I found myself writing a lighthearted series of murder mysteries, I thought, oh, well, I want to do something more. I want to do something better. And that's when I turned my attention to literary fiction and have been writing much more serious novels, and then also to nonfiction. My voice was an accident. I wrote this series of murder mysteries in my own voice, just me, crackin' wise. And so they were really like my boot camp. A lot of people get MFAs, they go off for 2 years to learn how to write. I didn't do any of that, but I had this real immersion in this very specific voice, my own. It's been harder to, over the years I've grown more adept, but leaving that voice behind is the challenge. The last novel that I wrote, a novel called Love and Treasure, is set against the backdrop of World War II, of the Holocaust, though it happens sort of before and after, not during. But it tells the story in part of what happened to the Jews of Hungary during World War II. And I was doing an event on book tour, and this very, very elderly woman came up to me afterwards where I was signing books. She must have been in her 90s. She was shorter than me, and I'm very small. And she took my hand, and she just said, "You've told the story I could never tell." And I can't even talk about it without getting emotional. I was so afraid when I set out to do this, and I felt like it was beyond my abilities from a literary point of view, and it was beyond my nerve from a sort of historical point of view. And then to have gotten that kind of reaction from the person who embodied the people who mattered most was the happiest moment of my professional life.